thank you for the invitation, and I'm pleased to be here because I learned a lot about initiatives that are foreshadowing evolution and change. I would like to be useful, but in order to be useful, you can help me by asking questions. Let me give you in a nutshell what I believe. The food crisis of the 2008, with the rise of prices, gave rise to a lot of work. Food came back on the agenda of governments, of the international community, and so on. And that there has been a lot of foresight exercise. We have shown some of them. The UK foresight is one of the most known, but there are others also interesting, if not more interesting in finance. So, from multilateral organizations and so on, they all converge as far as the assessment of where we stand is concerned and where we go. If we keep feeding ourselves the way we are feeding ourselves today, meaning producing the same way, consuming the same amount of things, tensions will be tremendous in the future. Our systems, with an S, are unsustainable, most of them. Let me then, from that, skip to, I liked very much the conceptual framework. Where is he? That Lawrence presented. He's not. Yeah.
He was in front.
Huh?
He's sitting right there. He's not right now.
No, Lawrence, that's right. He presented us the multi-level transition framework. You remember, a very nice graph, and I think it helps capture, in fact, the question that Ed was asking. Ed said, I mean, how it comes, if I'm translating, that we don't change. There is a collective denial. If all the foresight exercise tell us we need to change, and at the same time we don't change, and in substance we don't change, because what you presented, if I'm going to the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, and I read a report they made on local things, etc., they are less than 0.4% of the value, and that there are less than 5% of the farmers, and what you call farmers in the United States is, there are some millions, but there are thousands of farmers. And then, so, so why? How can we explain why we don't change? And I think that the systemic vision, the word of system, is very helpful. By the way, I mean, as a philosophical note, we're humans, and what defines us as humans is that we have language. And the meaning of language is not fixed. Okay? So let's be aware of how much prisoners we are of the vocabulary we use, of the mental models we have. So a lot of words have been used, a lot of words are outside there, even stemming from my own institution about growth. But someone says, and I believe he's right, that, I mean, in a finite planet, speaking about growth, perpetual growth, continuous growth, you must be either a fool or an economist. I am an economist myself. So, I mean, we cannot think of growth. Everything cannot grow. There are things that must stop, diminish, and others can grow. But growth on a finite planet is not possible. So we need a transition, and let me also say something. We don't know where we will go. And after all, the initiatives we were talking about, by their diversity, show that you can speak about, I don't know, urban agriculture. You can speak about functional food. This is the industries preparing functional food. That was the green thing we have been shown, that the jigs of the internet produced. You can speak about agroforestry, agroecology, organic, etc. The models are multiple, and let me draw immediately a conclusion, and then I will stop and I will ask you. A conclusion from that. The way we conceive policies is changing. What we can expect from a public authority is changing. How it is changing? Of course, we will still have regulation. Of course, we will still tax things, etc. So the basic functions of public authorities remain. But there is a complementary function that more and more is needed, and this is a facilitating function. So governments not as a providers of solutions, not as a prescribers of the things, but are facilitators of solutions, of innovations in context. And that's very important, in context. So you can interrupt if you want, I can follow up, go on.
Can you give a good example of that?
Of what?
Of just what you've said. Governments as facilitators.
Well, okay, that's the end. What we initiated in the remit of my own policy area, which is the Common Agricultural Policy, is the European Innovation Partnership. What it is, and how it is built, and what is its governance. It is helping the building of local groups, multi-stakeholder, and not only citizens. It's the idea of food councils. I'm impressed you didn't speak at all in the United States of all the movement of food councils. What is the movement of food councils? It's the citizens with local authorities, with retailers, with all the part of the food system seeking to reseize control. Control is a false idea.
But we are concurrently handing over control through TIP and all these things to bodies that have.
I didn't say that the word is immune of contradiction. Okay. I'm trying.
On the one hand,
I am on the niche side of the Christopher. I'm on the niche side. What emerges?
On the one hand, our governments are handing over control, out of democratic control, to organisations completely out of our power. And on the other hand, you are saying we should encourage local partnerships and all that. What control do they have? What actual powers do they have in that context? There's a contradiction here between the actions.
There I see that, okay, but then we will speak, I'm not against it, or to speak about, the need to reinvent democracy. What we call democracy is more or less not really adapted anymore. That's why I spoke about words and models that are not. We need to speak about media, how the public debate is shaped, right? Things like that. But then we are not speaking precisely of food. If I may so, then later on, we can have this chat. So for me, a lot, we have been shown with tensions by, I don't remember the name, the first speaker. Let me add another tension about efficiency on the one side and resilience on the other. There is a real tension there. Why the system, the food system, the dominant food system, is difficult, in fact, to change? Well, this is by definition what we call a system. It's something that more or less has mechanisms of stabilization. Its parts, you can think of parts as the actors of the food system, but you can think also as legal parts, etc., etc. All these things have co-evolved for a long time with an optimization, we are in a business school, one of the partners are a business school, with an optimization at one moment, and all this goes well, we are very efficient. By the way, we managed to feed doubling of the world population in a few decades. So the food system is efficient, tremendously efficient. Yields per hectare have increased tremendously, but we are vulnerable. We are vulnerable, why? Because the diversity of our material, of our living material on which farming depends, has eroded. What we ate was 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 70,000 things. Now we are fed with less than 200. All our food depends on very few staple foods and varieties that have been selected, are optimal, have been selected, by the way, not necessarily by, let's say, the community. They have been selected from one stage onwards by private firms. And they provided varieties that are very efficient. Okay? So farmers have been offered a variety that would have triple production. Let me just finish my illustration. The drawback, I mean the other side of the story is, yes, they are, in order for these varieties to be economically interesting, you need economies of scale, you need standardization, you need, in fact, to gain markets, etc. So, and in fact, if I want to grow the same thing in Scotland, north of Scotland, and in Crete or in Cyprus, which happens, I need to correct nature, because nature is not the same, the ecosystem is not the same, the land is not the same. And how do I do that? Well, I drain, I irrigate, I add fertilizer, I add chemicals. So, in fact, the type of efficiency we have achieved is tremendously resource intensive, and the resources are not unlimited. We are on a finite planet. So if I may sketch, and then I'm coming to you, if I may sketch what the transition, not what the end will be, but what are the principles guiding this transition, is what has been coined as circular economy. I mean, it is, you need to work miming how nature works, okay, rather than trying, in fact, to, let's say, to master, in fact, to stabilize nature. I admit the vocabulary is a little bit unstable. Ed, you wanted to say something? It's still.
So, a point to the question. I think the word efficient, as you say, should only really be used in conjunction with the context. Like having an efficient food system.
I think that we need.
It's only efficient if it lasts for over 100 years.
Exactly. So the logic of optimization needs to change, and our business model, for a large part, are
and so consequently,
valid.
I would encourage you not to use that word. Because if people hear the word efficient and they go, oh, cool, everything's okay, and they congratulate themselves.
No, we need to remain viable. Remember about dinosaurs. Okay? Everything is not bracted. We are speaking about living organisms. These are equilibria. We have threshold points. We are speaking about climate change. We are speaking about things we don't know really how they function. So we need to be cautious. And to be cautious, if at one end I have full efficiency and at the other end full resilience, which is very inefficient, I need to be somewhere in the middle in order to remain viable. So our models of optimization need to evolve. You have viability theory in mathematics. I mean, you have a lot, in fact, of inspiration in a university like this to adapt and to help us make progress with our business model. Yes.
So So my question is, do you think that the common agricultural policy and Europe's activities is putting us at the right point on that scale of weed efficiency?
In substance, no. Then we come to the question of Christopher. Who shapes the agricultural policy? How it is shaped? Who decides? Okay? How the political system is structured? And there, let me come to another feature, in fact, of policies and governance as it is. We need to specialize. We need to specialize. And we specialize. We specialize in disciplinary fields. We specialize in what? Huh? In responsibility areas, then it goes very fast. Responsibility areas. And there starts a kind of overlapping of typical constituencies. You can speak about clients. So farming policy for a long time was a policy for farmers, not necessarily for 500,000 Europeans. 500 million Europeans. Progressively, it added elements. For instance, now we have a lot of components in this policy that are precisely trying to help what you are talking about. Connecting citizens with food, so that kids don't think that the chicken is nuggets. Okay? So all the initiatives in school canteens, in okay, I mean, I don't remember we're supporting them. We have programs within the agricultural policy to help make this reconnection, meaning using tools, and then I think I come to something important in my mind that validates, in fact, the reasoning where local is interesting. Local is interesting because, among other things, it makes the transcendence of boundaries more easy. It makes the synergies between tools that belong to different areas, health issues. But who is responsible for health issues? Schools, who is responsible for schools? Land, who is responsible about can I use this land for this or for that? Okay, taxation. So in fact, policy tools are in a very great variety, but typically they are considered, let's say, policy by policy, and that's a bit specifically also true at European level if care is not taken, and sometimes care is not taken. Remember, decisions about, let's say, the agricultural policy are taken by farm ministers. They are not taken, let's say, so they are like-minded, they feel they are accountable to specific constituencies, and of course, I mean, it's not the end of the story, but that in my mind explains why we need to find mechanisms to transcend this segmentation. Okay? A system, if you want to make a system evolve, you need system interventions. I was recognizing, in fact, the various levels, etc., that they presented. I think Donella Meadows was the first one. In fact, someone asked this morning, how do we intervene effectively? I think it was you, in the system. What are the points in the system and what type of public intervention? Well, there, I don't think that there is an answer valid at all levels. Depending on the tools of every area. We will hear about the urban food strategy of London, and the tools of London are not the same of Rome, are not the same of a smaller town. By the way, I mean, because we heard about the States and Canada, let me tell you that around Europe, popping up urban metropolitan strategies all around. And these public authorities use, in fact, food services they control, okay, as a vehicle, in fact, to start have more responsible. I mean, your country has, Utrecht has that, Rotterdam has that, Amsterdam has that. In schools you say this is the percentage of organic supply. Organic is not necessarily more sustainable than other things, but okay. So, coming back to the European Innovation Partnership, because the groups are local, because they're all.
We've got 1 more minute left, and then we'll open the floor to
Because
questions.
they're all okay. Because they're all, in fact, of those typically providing knowledge, and this is a big question, and I think we should a little bit talk about that. Who provides? How is generated the type of knowledge we need in order for our food systems to become sustainable? 100 years ago, it was more or less the public sector. That's not the story today. Relevant knowledge about how we farm, how we process, etc., is produced by industry. They produce knowledge. They produce solutions. But their agenda is limited. They provide the solutions, in fact, provided that they can have an economic activity with these solutions. So if I have integrated pest management, or if I have pest management, biological pest management without chemicals, I'm not expecting Monsanto or Syngenta or BASF or etc. to really devote money on that. That's the importance of public research now that food came back on the agenda, and this is what the union does. I mean, in a period of recession and pressure on the public budget, we doubled the budget we allocate on agricultural and food related issues. We doubled.